Welcome to Be Held's podcast, What's Your Story? Where lyrics are more than just words. I'm Giselle Inez, your host, a licensed mental health counselor and model, guiding you through the journey of self-discovery and authenticity. Join me as we explore the heart and mind of an artist. This podcast is a safe space where your vulnerability is your superpower.
Sweet. I wanted this to be the loudest song. I wanted it to be the climax of the hero's journey, in a way.
Oh, wow.
So,
walk us through it.
Song represents.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
Addicted.
The song starts with ad-libs saying, keep going, keep going, keep going, take that potion. And, yeah, kind of representing that voice in your head telling you to fall into the traps of life. And the song's kind of all about falling into the traps of life. And
that impulsive voice.
Ooh,
that wants instant gratification.
Yep.
And instant gratification is, needing it right now.
And it's not the solution.
I can't wait any longer. I need it right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And from a risk reward standpoint, that instant gratification never leads to good things at the end of the day. So the first verse goes over a lot of drugs I took in high school.
Yeah, I appreciate that vulnerability. Yeah,
probably the darkest point of my life so far. Had a terrible relationship with parents at the time. Wasn't great with my sister. Pushed my friends away a lot.
Yeah.
I was really just destroying my body.
What was going on in that part of your life that was the catalyst to pushing away everyone?
Confusion, being lost. Kind of how we went over that previous episode of wanting answers. Mm-hmm. This is more of a philosophical kind of viewpoint. I was I'm trying to get better at it, and I think I've gotten better. But I was a very big nihilist at this stage of my life.
What is that for people who don't really know what that is?
The concept of nothing matters in life. And I think I've referenced everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
There's positive nihilism, but I think there's a more pessimistic view of that kind of philosophy concept, because surely you just essentially get nothing out of life at the end of the day if you look at life that way.
But what was happening in your life during that time where you wanted certain things to go a certain way, but they weren't going a certain way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that was the outcome, what gives us some examples?
Form of rebellion, kind of, in a way. Everyone goes through that in high school. But I was a very straight-edged kid until I think high school hit.
Yeah.
And that is just due to craving that instant gratification, especially drugs, was just kind of a leeway out of my head.
I love that, out of your head.
Yeah, I didn't know how to deal with emotions, definitely at that point. I'm still a lunatic, but it got better.
Right.
There's strategies you develop over time.
Yeah.
But I think your hormones are all over the place.
Yeah.
At that age. And you're dealing with a lot of kind of existentialism at that point of life. And you don't have answers to things, and things are very, very
what did you want an answer to?
There's a lot of higher level things going on. I think...
what was one answer that you really wanted but you weren't getting at that time?
How does life work?
Yeah.
I wanted the answer.
Valid.
To that. And
you wanted a manual.
I wanted a manual. I don't know if it's just always kind of an engineer at heart, but yeah, that's a great way to put it. I just wanted step-by-step instructions, and I'd get more and more frustrated that not only was I very nihilistic at this point in life, but I treated it like a video game, which essentially may not be a wrong way to treat it, but I felt like free will, that's a concept. I don't want to really go into do we have free will or not.
Right.
I don't want to really go into that theme, but I thought life was predetermined at that point.
Right.
And that's where nihilism kind of worked hand in hand, because I thought it was all planned out for me already.
Right.
Like, things are just going to fall into place. What's the point of me trying? Like, if life is always just going to end up in this order.
Right.
I really firmly believe that life ends up in...
You were just so tired, it sounds.
Yeah.
Like, you were just so tired of feeling, like, disappointed, it sounds. And I think when you said you like, couldn't shut your brain off, that's, like, a real thing, right? Like, constantly, like, talking to yourself and constantly thinking and just going a mile a minute. And it's just kind of like, how can I shut my brain off? And that's true. Like, people will go to drugs to...
Shut it off.
Shut it
the voices.
Shut it off.
Yes.
And so what was your relationship like with yourself and using at this time? And, like, what were you using?
Yeah, fortunately I didn't really go into anything, like, super, super hard, but
Okay.
I was, like, you know, I started off with nicotine. I was vaping probably at, like, 14, consistently at, like, 15 or 16.
And vapes, like, what?
That
That's
age,
that
yeah.
statistic of it's one cigarette pack
Yeah. And
in a vape, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's getting... People are doing it at a younger age nowadays. It's just getting worse.
And it's super addicting.
These companies are awful, terrible people behind these corporations. Because they know.
Yeah.
And that's that whole concept of talking about instant gratification. Everything, not just drug related, everything in life is trying to grab at your dopamine levels. Every app, everything designed is trying to grab your attention.
Right.
And that's a thing I don't think any generation had struggled with except for this generation.
I know.
And it's just getting worse and worse. It's a weird thing that we have to learn how to focus because that wasn't something... Boredom was just a thing in the past because, you know, there simply wasn't as much to do. I think there's just a million possibilities at every second of our life. And I think we kind of have that analysis paralysis happens as well because of that. Like, life was more structured, which is pros and cons to that in a way, but nowadays you could be whatever you want. You could go down any path you want.
Right.
Which is really confusing at 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I wanted to do. I don't know what I wanted to be.
And I'm sure you had a lot of questions asked, right? Like, oh, what's your next step? Where do you want to go to college? What do you want to study? What do you want to be? Like,
going back to that pressure.
Yeah.
Just being like that first one in the ringer. Yeah.
And that is a lot. That's a lot of questions that you don't have all the answers to, and you're not meant to have all those answers at that moment. And it's also okay to not have those answers now too.
Yeah.
As humans, we're always constantly evolving and growing. I think it's just our responsibility to tap into learning, like, what do you really like to do versus, like, am I people pleasing and am I only doing this because my mom and dad want me to do this or XYZ?
Yep. And just going into the verse, I guess, used to pop an Addy every day because I felt different. I used Adderall quite a bit in high school just to try to
shut your brain.
It was kind of like, and it was kind of that concept thinking I need these things. My brain just, like, was really good at self-diagnosing. Yeah. So Adderall was a broken puzzle piece because I'd struggled to fit in. I think that's the kind of real concept, like, of the song, and concept of just, like, you know, there's a puzzle there, and you're trying to just force your way in, trying to understand life, trying to be part of a friend group, try to be cool, and it just doesn't work. It's just like, you know, it's not meant to be. That's not your crowd. That's not who you are. You just gotta find another puzzle, essentially, right?
Right. Like, if you're escaping yourself, what does that show around the people you're around? Yeah. You're also, like, most likely surrounding yourself with people who are escaping themselves as well, right?
So experimenting was the only option. Seemed fitting. I smoked a lot. Used to smoke up every day to try the problems away. Kind of just avoiding those problems.
Yeah.
Use the bottle set to hide up my emotional state. I drank a lot.
Right.
And I mixed them, you know.
Right, yeah.
And I tripped to try and find my soul in the rain. That's the kind of that whole concept. Like, I didn't know who I was. I couldn't find my soul. Like, I
the fact
lost.
that like you were soul searching at such a young age, I think also shows too. Just like
Yeah, wanting answers.
Yeah, and how
Just
complex you were at such a young age too. That could feel really scary, not being able to like relate to other people who are at that level of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think even
It's
just
not even from an ego standpoint, but it's just like when you're consciously feeling like no, it's like because no one relates. It just feels like
no one's thinking about that at that time.
It feels like you're the only one.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets.
Or
it gets
it
scary.
seems like no one else is thinking about it because no one's talking about it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm addicted. I wish my brain was tamed.
Yeah.
Like, what did you
Trying to tame
want
it.
your brain to feel and like think in those like during that time of your life? You know what I mean? That you felt like it was just so
It's the manual.
out of control.
I felt like if I had answers, my life would be normal. Like I wouldn't be crazy.
Right. You wouldn't be constantly on the go.
Crazy, yeah. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's I could never shut it off, and that's why I would hide with friends. I'd hide with drugs. It's just I would always be busy, but I never tackled the root cause of my issues. And the second verse kind of goes. First verse was just talking about like the lesser drugs.
Yeah.
And the second verse is kind of just tapping into younger Brandon. Like I consciously knew these decisions were bad, and it was never due to peer pressure. That was one thing I was always adamant about. That like I never fell into peer pressure. It was always my decision.
Right.
But that kind of made things worse in a sense, knowing that like
you were making these choices.
knowing consciously I was making these choices,
Yeah.
knowing consciously the consequences of these choices,
Right.
and
still doing it anyway.
knowing how like if I had little Brandon like in the room, how much I would hurt him.
Yeah.
But I would continue to do them.
But it sounds like in that time of your life, the pain was it seemed so unbearable. That like you were willing and okay with disappointing younger Brandon.
Totally.
Because it was like, if I could just numb it away, then I also won't see him too. Like you were just running away from yourself.
I thought numbing was the solution.
Yeah.
But it never solves exactly what that root cause is, what that problem is.
Right. And so what would you say was the root cause, if you had to be like...
I just didn't spend enough time, I guess, like kind of reflecting in a way. I didn't spend enough time with myself. I always seeked in other people.
Okay.
I think it wasn't until probably COVID hit where I was forced to kind of be alone, couldn't see anyone. It wasn't until then where I was like, oh, like you either... I think this is the hardest phase in a person's life. This is where people lose their lives. This is where people give up. They don't make it through. It's fighting what's within. It's pushing through. It's
facing yourself.
And like once that is over, I firmly believe you've gone through the biggest hurdle in your life. Once you're truly content and accepting and vulnerable with yourself, everything else comes easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like what you're describing essentially is when you make the active choice of choosing to feel the pain, and not in a way of suffering like I hate myself so much I'm gonna suffer. It's more so like this, like I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel betrayed, I feel hurt because of X, Y, Z, and I'm being honest with myself in this moment. And that's the true pain. Like, that's the true reflection, when you're able to sit with that. And sit with that is in, I feel it in my body, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna do what I need to do to let it out.
Exactly. And that was something I struggled with as well.
Right. With so many people, no matter how old you are,
totally.
It's truly painful to feel your emotions.
Of course, and
right?
I'd say, like, speaking as like a man, you know, from a masculine experience, especially, like, you're just grown up not to show your emotions.
Yes.
You're raised like every voice is telling you.
I love that you're bringing this up.
You can't express yourself.
You can't cry. You can't be sad. You can't look that way.
Yep. But through the books I read, trying to remember the name of the book. The Courage Not to Be Disliked, I think is the book's name.
The Courage to Be Disliked.
Courage to Be Disliked. Yeah. I just want to go on that because I think that book really helped me because the philosophy is all about choice.
Yes,
so
like radical accountability.
That kind of shed a new light and pushed me out of like this nihilistic identity because it did kind of fit the theme I did have where everything's kind of predetermined in a way. But putting it in a perspective of like I have a choice to make that decision. Yeah. That really shed a new light on things. And yeah, I think that pressure of wanting to be great all the time, it kind of narrowed that down as well for put everyone on the same playing field. Like, kind of just going, not related to the album, but going on a little tangent. Like, I think celebrities, for example, we put a huge kind of like trophy over these people.
Oh yeah, like we put them on a pedestal, like as if they're not humans.
And or icons or anything like that. Yeah. But you have to remind yourself we're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all technically at the same playing level.
We are.
And once you put that in perspective, it's like it's really cool when you put that in perspective because it's like, oh, my dreams aren't that far.
Oh, I love this. It's so true.
So, this whole song, like the song title says, it's just being a slave to all these traps. Yeah. And not knowing how to push through. I didn't have the answers at this point in my life. You just fall down this deep rabbit hole. Depression is no joke. Right. And it's that concept of lack of control. That's when depression really eats you up because there's no answers to it. There's no... I think the scariest feelings I've always had in life, and I've gone to therapy and I still go to therapy trying to power through it, is I find that over the years I've gotten good at kind of letting it out. I'm a firm believer that you have to let it out to push through. You can't, absolutely. The more and more you bottle these feelings, it's going to come out eventually.
Right, and then it comes not in a way.
Worse, and it affects people even more. So you just got to get it over with. You got to push through that hurdle and just do it. That wasn't something I struggled with. I think depression is like that feeling of numbness where you kind of go back to the nihilism, like when nothing matters and you don't feel anything. That's when that concept of like, game over, like you want to give up, like, because you're not afraid. That's where it gets really scary. Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot better to be scared of death. It's a lot better to recognize, I'm gonna go one day. Right. It's nice to know that because then you live your life to the fullest.
Yeah, and you make a choice and believe that you don't have to actually live your life this way. Yep. And I think it starts from, like, when you believe it, then you can feel it.
Totally.
Right? So it's this choice of, I no longer want to spend my days this way. And I think this episode really encompasses the fact that seeking help is just so important,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, even as, therapists, like, therapists have therapists, right? And we're all human beings at the end of the day, and it's just so important to let it out in a healthy safe
way.
space. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need therapy, I could just talk to my friends about it. I could just talk to my mom about it. But like,
the concept of like, I'll get over it.
Yeah, but like, therapy is not that. Therapy is a space where it's, your life is on the go, 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 that when you actually sit down in this like very peaceful, quiet room and somebody is in front of you, what you're essentially doing is talking to yourself. Like, that is what therapy is. Like, you are speaking everything that like you're feeling and thinking and all the struggles that you're going through. And what is happening is that safe, peaceful space that you're in is a soundboard, and all those words are coming back to you, and you can hear yourself now. In a space where you're not on the go, go, go. You don't have your mom or your best friend telling you like, XYZ, because the only person that's going to give you answers is yourself in those moments.
And it doesn't matter if life is going good as well or bad.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer that like therapy's for everyone. Like, once a week. Try, like, because like you said, it's just everyone needs, even if you had an amazing week, you just need a week you need to like even an hour,
just for yourself,
just to express yourself. What's going on? Just tap into it. It's kind of just like journaling in a way, Yes. That concept, you always have to remind yourself.
And when you're speaking it out loud, your brain is processing it differently.
Exactly.
So like, your brain processes it differently when you're writing, your brain is processing differently when you're drawing and all that. But like, when you're speaking, that's also another way of processing. And it's just so important to exercise that outlet too.
The concept I've always struggled with was, especially in this album, like, all I see is black, I say in the album, or just like going down that rabbit hole. Your brain is really, really powerful at, a concept I always struggled with was like kind of creating like a web of delusion at the end of the day, where you kind of think a problem exists, but in reality, no one perceives it that way.
You create problems.
You create problems.
Yeah.
And that's always been something I've struggled with, because you know what's real and you know what's not. Like the Truman Show. Or
like, when you create it, you actually you start believing it's real.
You start believing it. Yep.
Right? And I think it just always goes down to beliefs are just so important. Are just so important. And so, what is like one core belief that you were able to rewrite, essentially? Because like, in this time in your life, you had beliefs of like, life's not worth living, all like a little dark, limited, unhealthy beliefs. And so like, what was one core one that you were able to rewrite and hold on to and help you move forward?
This was thanks to my dad. We've had a lot of like deep talks, fortunately, over the years, and I think something that's always resonated with me, and I'm still trying to get better at it to this day, because I'm very like, I put a lot of pressure on myself, very hard on myself, but the words you tell yourself is everything.
Whoa, say that one more time, because that's bars.
Yeah. The words you tell yourself is everything at the end of the day. You say you're a loser every single day, you're gonna believe you're a loser, and you're gonna end up being that person. The reason why the greats are the greats is because they envision themselves to be a great.
They believe it.
Yeah. You need delusion, in a way,
You need belief.
Yeah.
You need to believe in good things.
Yes.
You need to believe you're a good person.
Yes.
I love that. Words are everything. Words become everything.
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
Yeah. The words you tell yourself,
the words you tell yourself are everything.
Yep.
I love that. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable and walking us through the song Addicted and what was going on in your life, and can't wait for next week's episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the Ripple Effect of Empathy on Be Held's podcast, What's Your Story? Together, we can continue to create a world filled with genuine connections and heartfelt stories. Click the link below to continue this transformative experience.